Jack Sanborn is back, baby. The Chicago Bears are making moves, signing defensive linemen, bringing back a guy who is going to replace Tremaine Edmonds in the middle. No, I'm just joking. Guys, it is the middle of free agency. The hot and heavy stuff has pretty much come to a close. Right now, I think Bears fans are frustrated with what has been going on, but we are going to turn our attention in this episode to the NFL draft. I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. Tonight with me is my good friend and co-host Justin Oniemi. This is the Chicago Bears, where I said this last time, we do not sleep. This just keeps going. We keep chugging along. Please hit that subscribe button. Just now let you sell it more.
Yeah. All right, Halas Huddlers, please subscribe, like, comment. If you like Jack Sanborn more than Rob, that's not possible. Never mind. But
Mark
any
Harmon
comments are favorable comments because we like to get the chat going with all the people listening. So for this episode, we are going to do a 3-round mock draft, but Rob's going to take us through a few key positions that the Bears have to have their eye on, and kind of talk about certain prospects that might be available within that first 3 rounds. And then you'll see a mock draft that we did covering 3 rounds of picks.
Yeah, so the beginning part of this, we're going to focus just on first round guys. And I'm looking at this from a Chicago Bears perspective. So you are not going to see names on here like David Bailey. Okay, first of all, he's not going to fall to 25. But second of all, he does not fit this system. You are not going to see guys like Ruben Bain. He, again, isn't going to fall, but he does not fit the system. So there are guys on here on this list that I think could fit the system, some better than others. And we're going to maybe hint at where I'm leaning in a certain way right now for the draft in the first round. We do not go that way. I will say that we do not go that way in this 3-round mock draft, but I will hint at where I do think they might go. And let's just dive right into it.
Sounds like you're blaming me, Rob.
No, not at all. Because if this guy falls to 25, I am very, very much on board with that being the pick.
Is he a teammate of Ruben Bain?
No.
Okay.
He's not.
All right.
We went the other direction on this one.
All right.
First up, defensive ends. Okay. Look, we have already heard Ryan Poles talk about it. He thinks it's one of the deepest positions in the draft. I will say you got to take with a little bit of like some of the stuff these guys say right now is a little bit of smoke, right? So does this mean they're trying to say, oh, it's a deep class? Look, I agree it's a deep class, but are they trying to say that to put people off of the fact that maybe they are looking at defensive end earlier than expected? I've been talking with Gary offline with some off-the-record stuff that I can't bring up here, but I will say I personally don't foresee this team taking more than 1 defensive lineman in the draft. I think it's 1. I don't think it's going to be both an end and a DT. I think it ends up being 1. And I could be completely wrong here. It's just how I feel this thing is going. But when it comes to defensive ends, there are only 3 names that I am looking at in the first round. You're going to be surprised by 2 of the names, or at least 1 of the names that's not on this list. I will talk about him at the end. But the first one is one that Justin kind of alluded to here, and that is a teammate of Ruben Bain, and that is Akeem Mesidor. Okay? Akeem Mesidor is someone who, outside of his arm length, is a prototypical Dennis Allen guy, right? He's 6'3", 260 pounds. I know the arm length is a little bit shorter, but because he's taller, he does still have a big, a wingspan, right? The knock on him, and we're going to talk about it, is his age. He's going to be 25 years old. Velus Jones territory.
I was going to say, almost Grandpa Velus, right?
Almost Grandpa Velus
was 26 by the time he started his rookie season. And now he has a Super Bowl ring, and he can already tell his grandkids about it.
It's exactly. Maybe his great-grandkids, if we're being honest. But here's what I have on Akeem Mesidor, a guy who I do think does fit this system. His age and just injury history are going to hurt him. It's going to knock him down draft boards. However, I will say I've seen lately another shift with him moving back up into those early teens by a lot of draft analysts that are out there. Like I said, he's going to be 25 for the 2026 season. He missed most of the 2023 season due to a foot injury, and foot injuries were kind of a common theme for him. But his 2025 season was very, very good. And if not for these 2 things, Mesidor would be arguably, in my opinion, the best edge in the draft class. Again, arm length doesn't bother me as much. You can tell he was trained well by Hall of Fame defensive end Jason Taylor. He's not the fastest get off in this draft class, but he has definitely got NFL speed. He has an amazing pass rush plan and a tool chest of moves. He can cut inside, bend on the outside, uses his hands extremely well. They're very violent. That is my favorite part of his game, is his hand usage. He has dips, counter steps, change of pace, direction, spin moves, rips, swim moves that complement his speed to power. For a win now team, they're going to benefit with him being able to step in on day one because he plays the run game as well. And he just needs to stay healthy. I could see a team like the Eagles, who are picking before 25, being that team that might just bring him in. But I would love to see him in blue and orange, even though I don't think they go defensive end.
Yeah. I'll comment real quick. We talked on an earlier show about, would the Bears finally put away our RAS scores? Not entirely. I mean, there is interest in that. But look at production on the field. And his production was through the roof. Now, the question is it because he was a man playing against boys, in a sense, at that age? But you have a favorite player from just a few drafts ago. Jared Verse was a bit older of a prospect. I think that did maybe cause him to dip a bit. And his production came basically right away. A strong rookie year. And by his second season was, being considered a viable threat off the edge. As you would hope with a pick like this. Because if you're taking a pick like this, you need the production right away. He's already in his athletic prime, basically.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was rookie defensive player of the year his rookie year as well. So
I didn't want to put that out there because I didn't know for sure. But no, it was that good of a debut.
Yes, it was. Okay, number 2 on the list. I have 3 defensive ends, by the way. Number 2, Keldrick Falk. Okay, a guy who many people are down on because here's the thing. When you look at his film, you have a tale of two tales. Is that how you say it? Tale of two tales?
Tale of two tales.
Tale of two tales. There we go.
I don't know what you're trying to say, but go for it.
I don't know.
There are tales and there are tells, and there are 2 of them.
Again, Falk is not probably going to fall to 25, but if he does, here's the thing. Dennis Allen would likely knock Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson out to make the call himself without their approval, because that's how much he fits the Dennis Allen mold. He is 6'6", 275 pounds, 21 years of age, okay? He is Dennis Allen mold through and through. He's great at containing the outside and playing the run. He's an early down defensive end who can step in on day one. He is very strong and dominant against the run. His floor is very, very high. The problem is when you turn on the tape from a pass rush standpoint, the production doesn't match, okay? He only had 2 sacks in 2025. However, he did have 30 pressures, so I'll give him that. But it's just not good enough. And I will say part of that, though, is the scheme change. They did move him to the inside a little bit here in 2025 on pass rush downs, but it's still not good enough. You go back to the 2024 film, though, he had 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. I think that is where his, not his ceiling necessarily, but like that in between his floor and his ceiling is probably where he's going to be. The concern with him, I think a little bit, is his first step is a little bit inconsistent, but I find that I can't speak to it because I've never spoken to him, but to me, it just seems like maybe he's trying to think too much at times and trying to read the run versus just going after and, pinning his ears back and going after the quarterback. His pass rush plan is a little bit lacking too. He does lack a few counter moves. Like if he gets stopped right away, like he lacks the counter moves to be able to get through and make that move to where he needs to go. But if he falls to 25, I think Dennis Allen and the Bears could be the team that could develop him into a very, very productive defensive end in the league. He just likely will never be a game record.
Yeah, some of the things you said there, when I like the word development, you wonder if the coaching can get you those things. But as you were starting, I started to think about Shamar Stewart, but more production than that, I would say.
Yes, way more production than that. I think it was 4 sacks over his 3-year career for Shamar Stewart, if I'm remembering correctly. So
that sounds about right.
All right, the last guy is the guy I think fits the system very well and could fall to 25. That said, All three of these guys could potentially be gone at 25, so they might not even be an option for the Bears. But that's TJ Parker out of Clemson, another guy who's 21 years old, 6'4", 265 pounds. The 2025 film isn't quite as good as the 2024 film, but too many people are hung up on the decrease in production. Outside of Bain and Mesidor, Parker, to me, has the next best hand usage at the defensive end position in this draft class. He can get violent, and that showed up in his 19.5 tackles for loss in 2024. Parker also has a nose for getting to the football with 6 forced fumbles in 2024 alone. Film makes it seem like he takes plays off at times, especially when the ball is going in the opposite direction. I think it's a little overblown, but it does seem to be the case at times. He needs to learn a couple more counter moves as well, just like Falk, to become elite and reach his ceiling. When chipped or double teamed, and that was another issue with 2025 versus 2024, he was getting a little too much attention. He struggled to have an answer. He isn't the best against – I'm sorry. He was struggling to have an answer. I got ahead of myself in what I was reading here. Also, he isn't the best against the run due to some inconsistent tackling issues. He shows up more, which shows up more in 25 than it did in 24. He swipes and reaches for the running back rather than wrapping and driving with force at times. But he does set the outside edge well, which is something that Dennis Allen is very cognizant of. And I fear, because he uses his strength and anchor to control blockers. Now, I will say I fear that he would fit better in a 4-3 front with a better interior pass rush presence. However, long-term, I think Parker could be the edge rusher this Bears defense needs moving into the future.
I think Parker's one of a few players where had they been able to come out of the draft in 2024, after the 2024 season, their stock was actually higher than it is now. But that's kind of like the right type of player to get at 25. Like if you get a guy at 25 who last year would have been a top 10 pick and they kind of show more of that, you might be getting a little bit of a steal with a later pick. So we'll see.
Agreed. Before I move on to another guy who probably would have benefited from coming out in 2024, I will mention I know a lot of people are pushing for Zion Young at 25. I'm sorry, it's just a little too steep of a price for me. I have a high second round grade on Zion Young. I think if you were to trade back from 25 and land somewhere in that 28 to 32 range, you go ahead and do that. You could take him in that range. I just don't like him at the 25 spot. He's got a little bit more holes in his game, but he does fit the Dennis Allen mold as well. So if Dennis Allen is wanting that player and those other three guys are gone and they do want to go edge, you're going to have to reach for him because he will not be there at 57.
Well, there is fluidity in moving up and down the draft. Like you said, trading back, trading up, that type of thing. But hey, as we go through each of these positions, make sure you're in the comments talking about the players you like at those positions. We're focused on the first round. Talk about everybody. Let's go through the whole thing. But Rob, take us to defensive tackles. I think I know where you're going based on the TJ Parker.
Yes, and if you have other guys you want to talk about that you think are first-round targets for the Bears, I will gladly talk to you about why I think they're not. Cassius Howell, by the way. Okay, Clemson, Peter Woods. Okay,
that's where I thought you were going.
Another guy who could have probably benefited from coming out in 2024, and then he tested at the combine and did not test very well, right? I think he only did a 10-yard split, didn't even do a 40. But anyway, let's rush through this. Look, he fits the mold that Dennis Allen likes. He's the only defensive tackle I think that fits the mold in the first round for the Chicago Bears. 6'2", 298 pounds, 21 years old. The film looked better in 2025, but easily my top defensive tackle in this draft class. I don't care as much about the Underwear Olympics. His ability to use leverage off the line and shed blockers is superb. He isn't always the fastest off the ball, but is very explosive with heavy hands, brings a full complement of pass rush and run stopping ability, something not all of the other DT prospects in this class bring. There's a lot of nose tackles and there's a lot of three techniques. There's not a lot of guys who can seem to be able to do both, right? He has great lateral quickness for his size, but he can be too aggressive at times, hitting the wrong gap or missing tackles. Needs to develop a few more counter pass rush moves to become elite. His testing was not something to be desired, but I don't put a lot of stock in the Underwear Olympics, and I hold on to my film analysis here. Anything about him before we move on to safeties?
I mean, I wouldn't hate the pick, but there are guys I like better. It would depend on how the board goes, and I think in this draft, especially from 25, we have no idea who's going to be there and who may not. So I would get on board with it, but I think it wouldn't be my first choice.
All right. Here's a position that I think makes more sense for the
This
Chicago
could
Bears
be.
at 25.
I think there are two guys, Rob. How many do you got?
I have two guys listed. Okay.
Okay.
Look, Caleb Downs is not going to fall to them. There is absolutely no way. So I do not have him listed here at all. My favorite safety in the draft is Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon, originally out of Purdue. Okay. Here's what I have on him. I have had Thieneman ranked as the second best safety in this draft class since January. After his combine performance, I have seen him shoot up from a second or third round target from other analysts now to being a possibly top 15 pick. It's possible he doesn't fall to 25, but if he does, Dennis Allen and the Bears should make the call and run up to the podium. Thieneman brings elite speed and is extremely versatile. By the way, a white defensive back that is not going to be Chris Conte. He would make a great compliment to Kobe Bryant if Dennis Allen really wants his safeties to be interchangeable. He's a Midwest kid, right? We like these local guys. He's a Midwest kid originally playing out of Purdue, out of Indiana, before transferring to Oregon. He has fluid hips and great back pedal. He has eyes for the football and can play all over the field with over 1,000 snaps at free safety, over 700 snaps at strong safety, and has even played a good amount of nickel. Thieneman would be a dream for Dennis Allen's system that loves to disguise his coverage and send multiple positions as blitzers.
So 3 things that stand out to me is he did test well. So he has the RAS score. He has the on-field production, and he has the flexibility to do a lot of things. And so that's what Dennis Allen has seemed to be about. You kind of have that with Kyler Gordon. You kind of have that with Kobe Bryant. To add a third guy that's like that, I mean, last season it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but this is not a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Way more athletic, obviously way younger, would be an exciting player to see in this backfield that still has a lot of holes, Rob. So that's, we keep saying best player available, and that's the way to build a strong roster. But you definitely consider not only is he the best player available or in the tier of other guys we see, but he would plug right into a spot we need a starter. So I would be excited if he's there, and if they took him, that pick would really excite me.
That would also excite me. This guy would not excite me as well, but I do have him here because I think he's a fringe late first round grade, early second round grade. And with the way that the draft class is with safety, there's a lot of higher end guys, a few lower end guys that have some potential, but I'm not set on that route. But Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is the guy out of Toledo. So he's a smaller school guy, but he's lengthy. He's 6'4", okay, 205 pounds. Loves to generate fumbles, has 9 throughout his collegiate career. Decent hip fluidity for a guy with his length, can break well out of his back pedal. Again, I have him as a second round pick, but with the lack of top end safety depth, he is a guy the Bears might have to consider at 25 or later if they can trade back. There are a few other guys I'd prefer over McNeil-Warren in the later rounds if it means the Bears land a better prospect in the first round. So he also brings versatility, though, and I do think would fit well in the system, especially next to Kobe Bryant. I just would much rather have Dylan Thieneman.
Well, is he another guy, though, that you wouldn't necessarily want at 25, but don't think he would be there at 57?
He will not be there at 57. Right. I don't see him getting past 40.
So that's another situation where if you're talking about you've already traded back, maybe might be an ideal pick. And again, plug and play type of player.
Yes. Okay. Here's a guy. Look, there's not a lot of options here. To me, from a linebacker standpoint, I'm not looking at edge rush linebackers. We're not looking at Arvell Reese, right? A guy who's going to be more of like an outside linebacker. We're not looking at David Bailey, an outside linebacker. We're looking at interior, inside linebacker type positions. A Mike, in a 4-3 defense. CJ Allen is a guy who apparently did not test well today. I wrote this way beforehand. It is not changing my opinion of him. Here's what I have, though, on CJ Allen. 6'1", 230 pounds. He's a bit slower. His speed's 4.55. Coming out of Georgia, though. So if Dennis Allen is looking for a linebacker in the draft who can come in on day one and be trusted as a downhill run-stuffing linebacker, which he expects the run game to be stopped from his back seven. He does not expect his front to be that middle, big guy stuffing. That's why Cade McDonald is not on my list as a defensive tackle. He does not want that. So CJ Allen would be a linebacker who could immediately come in and be that run-stopping guy. He reads and fills gaps better than most in this draft class. He's a phenomenal tackler, like a technically sound tackler, someone who will hit hard, wrap, take a guy down. His downside, though, is his pass coverage skills. And this is where I think people are seeing his drills. Look, he doesn't look athletic as some of these other guys because he doesn't have the back pedal, the speed, and to be able to do the things. So here's where you might not go this route just because you might need him to cover in the middle, like we saw Tremaine Edmonds do at times. He's got tight hips, lacks elite speed, but again, I think a good coordinator can mask those things by putting him in good position to succeed. He's young. He is athletic enough, though, sideline to sideline. He can read and react to the run game. He can be a tackling machine in the middle, and his football IQ will allow coordinators to trust him early on in his career.
Yeah, I mean, with the re-signing of DeMarco Jackson and the signing of Devin Bush, we were excited, and you gave the statistic that those are the number 1 and number 2 cover linebackers in the league, according to last year's coverage stats. So on the one hand, I'm thinking, well, they need to get better in that area. But if you're looking for someone to complement that and be the run stopper, you could kind of have it be both. You know, you play a guy who's good in coverage with one of the two we mentioned earlier, and then you have a run stopper alongside of them. Hopefully, though, you just have guys that do both. So maybe that's a reason to pass up on him.
Yeah, he wouldn't be my top choice here at 25. I'm going to be honest, and we're going to move on to corners right now. This is the position that I actually have been looking at in mock drafts consistently over the last week or two. I love the corner position. I actually had a guy to put here first. I'm going to move him down. I'm going to talk 2 other guys first and leave my favorite for the end. So we're going to go with Colton Hood first. Okay. He's a 6 foot, 195 pound, 4.4 speed guy out of Tennessee. He's got fluid hips that allows him to mirror receivers very well. His feet are very quick in his back pedal, and he does well with a change of space with cuts, stops, and changes in direction. Has decent ball hawk production, extremely fast, projects more as an outside corner with strong press man coverage ability, very competitive with a high motor, high football IQ, reads routes well, jumping routes or recovering nicely. Had a strong Senior Bowl performance, which we all know that the Bears seem to like. His tackling mechanics need work, but as only a 1-year starter, I do think that a DB coach like Al Harris can coach him up nicely. He can also be too aggressive at times, causing PI penalties. Being a 1-year starter could be a reason some teams stay away, but I wouldn't if you can get him in the late first or early second.
Yeah, this is a sneaky position because, again, if best player available is a corner, that position, as much as I like Jaylon Johnson, as much as I personally like Tyreek Stevenson's going to be in the last year of his deal, and we don't know. That's a guy this regime has, taken on, basically. He's not their guy that we know of. He has to kind of prove that. And Jaylon Johnson's coming off an injury. So although he was an all-pro before it, are you getting more seasons in the future of all-pro play out of him? Maybe not. And so, again, if the best guy out there is a shutdown corner that plays well in man-to-man and even has the flexibility to play well in zone, that's hard to pass up. But I want to hear, you obviously teased it, so we're building.
I got one more before we get to the good one. Okay. So Brandon Cease, 6 foot, 190 pounds out of South Carolina, another guy with 4.4 speed. This guy's even younger. He's only 20. Again, fluid hips, great footwork in his back pedal, transitions effortlessly, allowing him to maintain close coverage on receivers inside and outside of breaks. He's a physical corner who likes to jam receivers at the line of scrimmage, reads the run game well, quickly coming downhill on outside runs and screens. His 4.4 speed shows up on film, hardly allowing receivers to get over the top of him. He is much better in man coverage than zone, where he can find himself out of position quickly. But guess what? Dennis Allen likes man. Will overreact on play action and double moves more often than I'd like. This can tend to him getting a little handsy, causing a lot of flags at the NFL level. He needs to improve on his tackling techniques. Too often he makes a business decision and pulls up or uses arm tackling rather than hitting and wrapping. Has room to develop, though, at only 20 years old.
Well, and again, the development word keeps coming up. The Bears were fortunate to be able to keep Al Harris for at least one more season, probably only one more, to be honest. But he's known as a guy who gets the most out of his players. So a guy who's a project or needs a little help, can't think of a better coach for it. And now
Now, yes. Look, this guy is a guy I would take at 25. The other two, if you could trade back and get him in the late first or early second, that would be fantastic. But this is a guy I would pound the table for at 25. I have him ranked higher than most. He is my CB2 on my board. Avion Terrell. Okay, 5'11", 185 pounds, 4.3 speed, 21 years old, out of Clemson. My cornerback 2 in this class, even above Jermod McCoy, who I think most people have as their number 2. Younger brother of standout corner, AJ Terrell, right? Physical corner who loves to come downhill and puts big hits on guys. His aggressiveness can be his only downfall at times. Takes bad angles and over pursues because of that aggressiveness and has some missed tackles. However, he has scheme versatility. Most of all, his ball hawking skills show up in zone. Does a great job observing route concepts and matching receivers. Fluid hips allows him to mirror opponents. Man coverage isn't an issue either, and he can isolate, although he does leave a little bit more separation than guys like Jermod McCoy, who gets right up on the line. This could be a problem in short area situations with quick releases in front of his body, but I don't think it's something that he can't learn to build off of and develop. Seems to love competition, never looks to quit on plays, and is always letting receivers know he made a play. We'll bring that back. Would make a great blitzer too in an aggressive system. Knock, knock, Dennis Allen. Size and durability could be a concern, and he can take can he take on taller receivers in contested catch situations? College didn't paint the best picture there at times. He can be too physical. I said that already. Toward the ball. I'd expect a decent amount of PI calls on any of these guys. It's just kind of common. But again, I would absolutely love to see him at 25.
What makes him just that much better? I heard the speed factor, maybe. I know they want to get faster in the backfield.
The ball hawking, the way he gets turned around and gets his hand on the football, the way he reads quarterbacks, the way he reads receivers' routes. I just absolutely love this kid. And he's got the pedigree.
There you go. All right. Well, we obviously can't take all the guys we went through there, but again, in the comments, talk about guys you're excited about or guys we may have missed. All right, so here's our mock. Only first 3 rounds though, and we
only first 3 rounds. 4 picks. Trades were not allowed, and I will quickly run through this because there's not. Oh crap. Okay, well, my slides are missing for this. That's fantastic.
Post-production.
I will post-production them in, and no one's going to know the wiser except for the fact that I just told you. Okay, so at 25 in this mock draft, he fell. I did not create it. I did do a few of them until he fell, but it happened, so that means it is possible, and that was at 25, safety out of Oregon, Dylan Thieneman. We talked about him enough. We don't have to talk about him again, but absolutely would love that pick here at 25, even more than Terrell. Okay, second round. Look, this was before the Jack Sanborn signing, so I do think it would have swayed my opinion a little bit here. But second round went Josiah Trotter, 6'3", 295 pounds. That's not right.
No, 230.
No, 238, I think is what it is. I don't have it written down. Right. Yeah. 4.6 speed. So he's a little bit on the slower side out of Missouri, but he's only 20 years old. So look, he comes from a strong NFL pedigree, very physical linebacker who loves to come downhill and pop guys. Again, lacks sideline to sideline speed compared to guys like Anthony Hill, Jacob Rodriguez, but they were already off the board. So this was the next best linebacker in my opinion here. I do say with the signing of Jack Sanborn, I honestly would consider going corner here. Keontae Scott would have been my guy. He was there. I would have absolutely loved that, and I should have done that because I love Scott and his versatility and would look good in Dennis Allen's defense. But instead of, and I would have looked elsewhere at number 60. Like CJ Allen, again, his cover speed isn't the greatest, meaning Dennis Allen would have to mask his deficiencies, although he doesn't have elite speed. He does have sneaky upside if used as a blitzer. His run defense is by far his bread and butter, though. He reads plays well, attacks gaps, and plays with NFL physicality that defensive coordinators will love. He's also very young, and has time to develop even more. All right. We do get a corner, though. We get a corner at pick 60. Davison Igbunason, 6'3" corner. I have the weight wrong again. I don't know why. I have 295 for all of these guys. I didn't change them for some reason. 21 years old.
Across the board.
I think he's 205 off the top of my head.
Dennis Allen prototype at every position. Yeah. I want everyone 295.
I don't have my board up. I should have pulled that up as well. Anyway, for time speed here, I think he's about 190, 200 pounds. But he's out of Ohio State. He's an outside press man style corner who can make an immediate impact on this team. I'd expect him to push Tyreek Stevenson for that CB2 spot, but it might take him some time to win it. His hips aren't as fluid as the guys I mentioned earlier as the first round targets, and is also a reason I think corner is the position looked at closely at 25 or maybe 57. Igbinison is a good run defender, though. He's a solid tackler who is continuously developing, and his technique and reduction of penalty. He had like 30 penalties in 2024 is really bad. Drastically improved from 24 to 25. So a guy who's developing, you're seeing the development. And I think it takes that next level here with the Chicago Bears under Al Harris and Dennis Allen. All right, let's quickly get through the last one. This is a guy who I've seen just shoot up boards due to his performance at the combine. His testing is through the boards or is through the roof. And that's Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma.
Through the boards means you're going down, I think.
That's right. That's right. A little bit of an older guy compared to those other guys we were talking about. He's 22. Okay. He's not quite Mesidor ages or Velas age there. Out of Oklahoma, rising prospect who may not make it to 89. So that's one of the reasons why he might not even be available. I have a third round grade on him, but I expect him to go anywhere between 60 and 75. If Halton falls to the Bears, I fully expect him to be the pick. He fits that Dennis Allen mold as a smaller, quicker DT who can penetrate gaps. He is 295 pounds, by the way. Really showed what he could do at the Senior Bowl, and Poles just happened to be at the Oklahoma Pro Day few days, like last week, I think.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, lots can change between now and then. As you said, you had to run some iterations just to see the board go the way it went. So I love that the Bears have 4 picks in the top 89. Will they move up? Will they move back? How will they make it all play out? We'll have to wait and see. But always here on the Halas Huddle, we're going to talk about it all. We get really excited to do these mock drafts. We're not keeping track. Well, this would be, I guess, since it's not a full, it doesn't count towards our.
No, it counts. It counts. I think it's number 4. Yeah, anything over a single round mock draft counts. I think this is number 4.
All right, so this is mock draft 4.0 of how many earlier? I think so.
I think
over under
17.
At 17. Wow, we're a little bit behind, so we'll see.
We're a little bit, but I do want to put this out there for the next episode. Unless something crazy happens, I think I want to do a mock draft, maybe a full mock draft with trades, and we're gonna focus on probably a corner in one of those early picks.
Sounds good. I got nothing else, Rob.
I don't either. So until next time, guys, bear down, claws up.